Last week I talked about my picks for most anticipated comics of 2017. Two of those picks were based on pre-existing licenses, John Wick and Aliens Dead Orbit. My favorite comic from last year was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers by Boom Studios, another licensed book. So I guess you could say I like licensed comics. Now, I know I shouldn't, but I do. Real quick, just to define what a licensed comic is in case some of you might get confused, that's any comic book based on a pre-existing media, like a video game, television show, movie, action figure line, something like that. So your Transformers, your G.I. Joes, your Star Warses, you get the idea. Now, normally when people think of a piece of entertainment media that's being adapted from an already existing property, it's usually in the negative. And people have every right to think this. For a variety of reasons, licensed media often turns out very bad. All you need to do is look at the various movie-based video games and various video game-based movies to see what I'm talking about. And the same is true for comics. Pretty much since the dawn of the medium, books based on pre-existing franchise were never held as in the same regard as books created specifically as comics first, like Spider-Man and Superman. But we all know this isn't really the case. Sometimes people can make really great art from someone else's work. Books like The Godfather, Jaws, Wizard of Oz all became critically acclaimed movies that are considered some of the best of all time. A Saturday morning cartoon like DuckTales or an above-average James Bond movie like GoldenEye can get video game adaptations that are considered landmarks in their respective genres. And comics are no different. Sure, there are a lot of stinkers. RoboCop can't seem to get a good ongoing series off the ground, and there was a Voltron series from a while back that I was not a fan of. But more often than not, especially nowadays, I'm finding a lot more comics based on licensed properties wind up being just as good as their source material and can sometimes add a lot to those franchises. And believe it or not, this has been happening for a long time. In fact, Marvel had a successful run of licensed comics from the 70s through the 80s. The original Star Wars comics helped save them from bankruptcy. G.I. Joe 19, The Silent Interlude, helped popularize the idea of telling a story without dialogue in the modern era. And their Conan line of comics are considered to have done more for the character than the original Robert E. Howard books. And we're seeing this still today, not really from Marvel. They've pretty much gotten out of the licensed comics game, aside from Star Wars, but we're seeing this from IDW, Dark Horse, Boom, Dynamite, and the list goes on. I think this has a lot to do with the fact that the creative teams on these books nowadays are fans of the original source material, in addition to being great writers and artists. Much like how Kyle Higgins is a fan of Nightwing and had a great run on Nightwing when the New 52 started, he's a fan of Power Rangers and currently is putting out a great Power Rangers book. Yes, you can be a fan of more than one thing at a time. Now, I know there are people out there, both fans and people who work in the comics industry, that aren't a fan of licensed comics. Image publisher Eric Stevenson has famously decried licensed comics in the past, saying that they play too much on nostalgia and don't influence creativity, and that they can and never will be the real thing. But I disagree. Yes, there are some licensed comics that only rely on nostalgia, and there are some that are stifled creatively by the license holders. But the best licensed comics, much like the best regular comics, can transcend any shackles of creativity to become legit classics. For example, Rom the Space Knight was a shitty toy made by Parker Brothers. A shitty toy. Okay, that's not fair. It was the first action figure to have electronics in it, but the point is, nobody liked it and it was discontinued after less than a year and only 300,000 units being sold. The comic, on the other hand, lasted from 1979 to 1986 for 75 issues and 4 annuals, and it's considered to be one of the greatest science fiction comics of all time. Not greatest licensed comics, greatest science fiction comics. And today we have books like Power Rangers and Star Wars and Regular Show and Adventure Time and James Bond and on and on and on. Books that can match what their source material does and take it in new directions, new and exciting directions that we as fans want to see. And if you ask me, the Buffy and Firefly books that Dark Horse puts out are just as real as the TV shows were. Now, I'm not saying everybody go out and only read licensed comics and publishers should only put out licensed comics. That's stupid. I think writers and artists should be free to create whatever the hell they want. You know, that's how we got The Walking Dead and Saga and Rachel Rising. Hell, that's how we got Batman and Superman back in the beginning. What I am saying is that licensed comics aren't all bad. In fact, sometimes they're just what you need if you're a fan of a particular character. What do you guys think about licensed comics? Do you enjoy them, or do you think they should all die so that we can make way for only new things? Let me know down below or anywhere on the internet. Technically, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles by IDW is a licensed comic because Nickelodeon owns the license and is giving it to IDW, but I don't consider that a licensed comic since it was a comic first and then a TV show. I consider it a transfer of power. But the Adventures of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic is a licensed comic because that's specifically based on the TV show. I might also be talking about another licensed comic next week, just so you're aware. I didn't plan to make this a theme, licensed comic month, but it might accidentally become that. Just warning you. New videos every Tuesday and Wednesday, and of course Wednesday night is Wulff Den Live. You come here at 9 p.m. Eastern to youtube.com/WulffDen. You can watch me and Bob live talk about a whole bunch of nonsense. If you miss it, no problem. The archive version goes on YouTube on Thursday, along as an audio version on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play, so you really have no excuse. And as always, guys, like if you like, subscribe if you really like, share this video with a friend. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.